how can we as communities come together to unite and support one another? The lack of safety that people today are beginning to feel due to eco insecurity, financial insecurity, job insecurity, it's a lot. Our sense of calm and safety is just gone.
Everyone's feeling fear in multiple ways right now.
Yes, this is the state we're in, but it doesn't have to be the state we stay in.
There's so many things going around us that are not in our control. The only thing that we can direct is our own selves. If we don't have the tools to navigate ourselves through it, we can actually hurt ourselves. The more that we can use tools to become more present, then we can actually show up for the people who need it, including ourselves.
One tool that I used a lot in times of crisis was Hey Heart Leader community, if you're enjoying this video, hit like and subscribe. It helps us know that we're creating content that's meaningful for you. So we've been traveling, and I know we've mentioned this a couple of times, but we've been traveling a lot over the past, I don't know, even past year and a half. And in those travels, we've spoken with thousands of people. And in those discussions, we've heard a lot of individuals who have lost homes in fires, in floods, in hurricanes, tornadoes. It's been soul crushing in a way, because when nature strikes, you're so helpless and so defenseless. The best we can do is get to safety and wait it out to see if what we have spent so much of our life building will be left standing. And I have personal connection with this because my family lives still in North Carolina, in a portion that was highly affected by the floods that occurred there. And it's still scary to talk about, because the very day that we got engaged, that night, we talked to them, and the next day the floods came through and we didn't hear from them. So something that was so joyous for us, then the very next day, and for a couple of days, I had no idea if my family was okay. And it's scary. And I know it was scarier for them, right? Their friends, their neighbors, people they care about lost so much. And now we just experienced it again in Texas, and the grief and the devastation. So I want to take a moment to talk about all that goes with these eco disasters, these natural disasters, and what's happening, regardless of our belief around what's happening with climate shift and our weather. These are outcomes of nature, volcanic eruptions, all of these things that are happening. Let's forget the why, right? We're not going to solve the big why, but we can definitely talk about what are we doing in response to supporting each other through the emotional impact that this is having, and how can we as communities come together to unite and support one another. And that's the conversation I would like to have. Do you ever get tired of that negative voice in your head telling you what you can and cannot do? My name is Amber Mikesell, and I personally got tired of that villainous voice controlling my inner realm. So I wrote this book, Silence Your Inner Critic. It's a comic book type series where you go in and you fight that villainous foe all along an epic quest. You can learn more about this fun filled adventure over at silenceyourinnercritic.com, and you can purchase your copy right there, or you can purchase it wherever you enjoy buying books. Yeah.
Honestly, there's so many different things to be afraid of right now. And
Yeah.
it's everyone's feeling fear, in multiple ways, across the board right now. I mean, we could feel physically unsafe, mentally unsafe, emotionally unsafe, and even spiritually unsafe right now. So to have these kind of conversations, even if we do focus on a specific area like eco disasters or those kind of things, it's a segue into the bigger aspect of fear that is permeating through society and culture right now.
To feel safe in your own home,
Mhm.
right? When I was growing up, it wasn't even a thought in my mind. I felt safe at home. Now, of course, we have other things that can cause us to feel unsafe at home, but it was never like, okay, I might get flooded out of my home. No, that doesn't mean it never happened, but it wasn't the first thing on your mind.
Mhm.
Now it is becoming a very prevalent thought on so many people's minds and hearts, you know, areas that weren't typically impacted by such devastating, massive flooding. There might be a flood here or a flood there, but massive flooding or massive fires or the things that we've seen. And so I heard two terms that really solidified this for me, and that was eco grief and eco anxiety.
Mm.
These are terms we're now starting to talk about. And when we've created terms to talk about emotional paralysis and conditions we're beginning to have, that means this is becoming something within our society and within our cultures. And eco grief means the levels of grief that people are feeling for the devastating losses that are occurring due to these natural disasters. So, looking back and whether they were personally impacted or someone they cared about was impacted, death of a loved one, loss of a family home, loss of treasured family heirlooms or such things.
Mhm.
There's grief that gets tied to that. And we begin to start feeling that, and that ripple of grief touches us all in some way, right? So, with as many disasters as we're beginning to embrace, whether we desire to embrace it or not, it's happening. That grief is happening to us as a collective, a human collective. And we're holding on to this grief with one another. And we might be going, well, I've not been impacted. Well, maybe you personally haven't, but those who have been impacted, there's financial loss that has happened to them. And then that also gets impacted into all the rest of our financial flow, right? So these things begin to have a ripple effect. And then there's PTSD that starts to happen, right? We start to have fear that it will happen again. So we're on the lookout for the next natural disaster and we're afraid for the next one. So now we have eco anxiety, looking ahead for, okay, it's happened here and it's happened here. Where's the next one? When's it going to hit? How am I going to protect myself?
Mm.
And so our sense of calm and safety is just gone.
Mm.
And that impact on our youth is huge. If you're interested, you can do the research, simple internet searches. It's amazing the absolute lack of safety that our young people today are beginning to feel due to eco insecurity, financial insecurity, job insecurity. It's a lot that they're navigating. So I want to understand, how can we not have paralysis as a result of eco anxiety and the forward looking of that, because it would be very easy to just get stuck, right? Deer in the headlights. Oh my gosh, given all the grief I have, the eco grief and the eco anxiety I have looking forward, I'm just stuck. I'm paralyzed. And move from that paralyzed state that we can be in and turn that into proactivity to nurture our emotions, support one another, and really understand, yes, this is the state we're in, but it doesn't have to be the state we stay in, regardless of what nature continues to do.
Mm. Yeah, that's a great point because yeah, we all know that we can't, and control itself is an illusion, but the idea of attempting to control nature, that's a whole other thing. And I know we've heard, science fiction about it, or we're even starting to hear, science now saying, oh, we can adjust the weather and these kind of things. But we're definitely not like, hey, let's, click a button and let's just have a sunny day.
Yeah.
And, oh, there's a hurricane coming. Okay, here's a button. Okay, no, it's gone. Like that's,
Delete.
yeah, delete. Yeah,
Delete.
we're not doing that right now. That's not possible right now.
Mhm.
So when it's tough when these are, it's happening cyclical. It's every year and it's in a lot of the same areas. However, it's also in a lot of new areas, and that's what's tough too, because people might feel like they moved to certain places. Like, I don't think there's ever been, devastation in North Carolina relative to a hurricane to that degree.
Not to
I
that
mean,
level.
that's not to that level, right? I mean,
Mm-mm.
maybe in Florida you're used to it because it happens every year, but that's really unexpected up in all the way up in North Carolina.
Well, especially all
Hmm.
the way up where it ended up.
Hmm.
Asheville has, yeah, no.
Exactly. So, you make these choices in life and it's to get away. And it's like, why does it feel like it keeps following me? Or this is out of quote unquote out of my control.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm fighting the wind, literally.
The mental clarity and emotional, like mental mind frame and emotional clarity that we can build, um, regardless of what's going on outside of us is so important.
Hmm.
And it's not something that we tend to focus on as a society and say, hey, this is a primary skill when it first and foremost actually should be,
Yes.
because it's not just eco. There's so many things going around us that are not in our control. Literally the only thing that we can direct is our own selves. So that
Yes.
means a vast majority of our experiences are out of our control. Yet it says we perpetuate this illusion of control that we can control it, and and then all these actions we start taking is to take control of it. And then what we're doing is we're setting ourselves up for failure because it's an unfair expectation to place on that which is outside of you, which you cannot direct.
Yes.
And so no wonder our response then becomes fear, because what we're doing is we're falling back into the unconscious of fearing the unknown. And when we can't control something, then that means that's an unknown.
Yeah. I would love to hear from individuals who are listening to this podcast and have been impacted in any way,
Yeah.
directly or indirectly, by an event, a natural event. And if they have tools or resources that they've used to help move through the emotion of that, it would be so helpful to share wherever you're listening to this. If sincerely, if you have gone through this and you felt that eco grief or the the sincere anxiety that then comes after that eco anxiety that they've now termed it, it can be devastating, it can be paralyzing. So, to be able to share tools and resources with one another because so many are now experiencing it, that is so important. That's why we come together as a community, a heart led community, so that we can share these things with each other. Because only from reaching that space where we're being proactive with our emotions and we're not frozen can we do anything to then move through it and take action And some things we can do to begin to prevent should something like that happen again, right? Because you're right. Up in Asheville, nobody was thinking, hey, a hurricane's going to come up this way. And given the structure of the valleys that we live in, this could create massive flooding. But now they've experienced it. And I do know that they are taking proactive measures once they move through the emotion. But some people are still grieving,
Mhm.
very deeply grieving major losses. And it's challenging. You can't tell someone when it's time to move through that.
Mhm.
They have to choose when it's time to move through that. But if we all come together and offer tools and support, then we continue to help them determine when it's their time.
Yeah. You bring up a really good point of saying move through it. And that's something, so often we place on ourselves or we place on others for people to get over it or for us to get over it.
Yeah, just get over
Just
it.
get over it. And it's been X amount of time, or these are just things, and I get that perspective of things, but you can have an emotional connection to a thing and not be materialistic.
Yes.
These are two different things. This is we share. There are things that we have that feel sacred. These could be pictures of family members, or these could be the collar to a dog who passed, or I mean, who knows there's so many different
Like, I think
things.
about this
A ring,
ring,
yeah.
right? If something happened to it, your energy is in this ring. You gave it to me. I would certainly, it would take me a while to get through the
Mhm.
emotion of something happening to it, right?
Exactly, exactly. And so we unintentionally repress because we feel that this societal pressure that we have to get over it because it's been X amount of time.
Yeah.
And, we're like, oh, well, what will people think if I'm still, grieving over something like this? Or am I, is it silly that I'm still grieving over something like this? I know I haven't had a natural disaster in that way, but just like anyone, I've been through emotional turmoil and felt this way where, I was still grieving and it was still beyond the time that I was told that I should be over it.
Should be
And I
over
was
it by
like,
now.
yeah. And I was like, well, I'm not.
Yeah.
So, I don't know
Thank
what to
you for
say.
that.
Like, I don't feel under it either. So like, I just I don't know where to go. And so, how would you describe the differentiation between, getting over it and that unintentional repression of emotions and what it actually means to get through something?
Yeah, that's such a great question because I think we've all gotten over something, right? But it's just like driving, right? There's a difference between going over a bridge and going through the tunnel. It's a whole different experience. When we go over something, there's still whatever is underneath. And that's what we do when we get over something. We're just pushing it down so that we can, like a speed bump, go over it and attempt to push it down. But whatever it is still there. The emotion, the feeling, everything that we are attempting to navigate is still there. And that means that it's going to come back up again at some point. It will bubble back up to the surface. And then we'll have a choice again. Do we go through it and acknowledge and experience whatever it is, or do we speed bump it again and get over it? But the more times we speed bump that puppy, the bigger it's actually going to get. So we have to be consciously aware of how often we're getting over something because each time we push it down, it grows and it grows and it compounds. And then the next thing you get over kind of joins together with it.
Mm.
And so now we're creating this chain system of everything we've gotten over. And it becomes a lot more challenging to go through that maze then. So, for something like this, and again, I'll use my parents when the floods hit in the Asheville area. I'm connecting with my brother. Have you heard from them? No, we haven't heard from them. So my brother and I are consistently chatting back and forth. Okay, how do we get a hold of them? Is there anything we can do? Well, we can't get a flight in because there's no planes. So I had to navigate through the emotions of not knowing whether I had lost my parents or I hadn't. You were there with me holding space the entire time. My brother was doing the same. So we were navigating that together. We both felt very confident because my parents are highly resourceful people, that they were fine. And we kept reinforcing that for ourselves. And being the highly resourceful people that they were, of course, they were fine. And they found a way to get a message to us within 48 hours. So I didn't have to go through that for very long. But instead of repressing emotions, I allowed myself to go through them, including grieving the potential loss of my parents and how I would navigate that.
Mhm.
And it was awful, especially on the heels of what we
Yeah.
what we had just got navigated. Like, it was not fun.
Yeah. The high and the connection of getting engaged, and then the polar opposite of that,
Yes.
feeling. Yeah.
But had I not, then the emotions would have still been there.
Yeah.
Had I only focused on the high because I felt like that would have made you happy or for any other reason, it's not like the fear I was feeling, the sadness I was feeling, all of the other emotions weren't there. They were there.
Hmm.
They just would have been pushed under the surface. And at some point, they would have come out again.
I appreciate you sharing that and being willing to express what you were feeling in that very difficult and unknown 48 hours, that you're just like, oh my gosh. And because you're just hearing on the news, and it's just constant devastation of how many people.
Constant.
Yeah, it was rough.
Showing all the bridges washed out, showing all the death toll.
Yeah,
Like, it's
it was
hard.
rough.
And
But
again, if anybody out there had that happen to them, like if you're listening to this and you're like, yeah, I had a similar experience and you want to share. Like, this is a safe space. It was hard. And I know that.
definitely. And one of the things you did really well when it comes to getting through something, because it's easy to get in cycles, and a lot of times fear is tied to future thoughts because we don't know what the result's going to be. So we get stuck in these cycles of what could happen, and and then we have all these feelings around something that could happen that isn't actually necessarily happening potentially.
Yeah.
And so when you get through something, you're not doing that in the same sense, because the difference is when you're cycling in future potentials, you're s- you're not even getting over it. You're just reliving it and reliving it and reliving it. Getting through it is saying, okay, hey, even if I do, like you said, like attempting to navigate the loss of your parents is like that's a very complex emotion to experience, and even just to get through, and it's definitely something you don't want to just like get over,
Right.
but to allow yourself time to feel through it. And that's one of the hardest parts, and it is scary,
Hmm.
because is and so there's a difference and the reason why I just wanted to point that out is because it's like, how do I do that, because I don't want to keep cycling, and I don't want to keep perpetuating something that isn't happening, but I'm also the feeling is very real.
Yes.
And so that it can be, if we don't have the tools to navigate ourselves through it, we can actually it can actually hurt ourselves.
Hmm.
And then let's say everything get the situation ends up being, fortunately your parents were okay, but you could have really caused even more stress and anxiety, and created a more difficult situation that would have lasted a lot longer than the 48 hours. And that's sometimes what we do. Even, we tend to do that even on small things. So when big things happen, it just becomes even more expansive. And I see that now in a society that when we're looking around and there's eco disasters, right? And so you're just like, well, what is the world going to look like in 10 years when it seems like everything is burning or flooding, or it feels like it's quote unquote biblical at this point with how much is going on. And it's like, I don't know I don't know where to go, and I'm just going to keep cycling and cycling, and I don't see the potential of a future anymore.
And I feel like that's where becoming proactive is so important,
Hmm.
right? And we talked about that as well. Because yes, we have to honor the feelings we're having, but we can't be dominated by them.
Hmm.
And there's such a difference. Getting through it is acknowledging I'm having the feelings, honoring the feelings I'm having. But that doesn't mean those feelings, those emotions own me. It simply means I realize this is real for me right now. But even in that conversation, you were holding such beautiful space for me. You were allowing me to, like, you seriously had just asked me to marry you. Like, we're still in the beautiful space that you had created for that, and getting ready to come home. And I'm navigating through all of this. And at the same time, you're reminding me we don't know what's happening. So feel your feels, but also remember that until we know, we don't know. And that was so beautiful, such a beautiful reminder for me. So that is a sincere tool to utilize if you are someone on the other side, right? That's supporting someone who's navigating those feels.
Hmm.
You can hold that space of, I honor where you are, but also remember, if you don't know, you don't know. So projecting something into the future isn't going to serve you or assist anyone in this moment. We don't know. So, what you do know is you're feeling what you're feeling. So, honor what you're feeling and find the tools that are going to help you move those feelings through. And that could be any one of the tools that you know. Like for me, meditation, breath work, movement, like go for a walk or yoga or shake it out, whatever it is. Some people love to go work out. Whatever it is that's going to get it through your body, through you, just take time to process it so that you can come back to the table knowing that you don't know what the outcome is yet. But what you do know is you can direct your responses, you can direct your actions, and you can be proactive with anything that you're doing right now that can shift an outcome. You can't control it, but you can direct your response to it that could shift an outcome one way or another. And I feel like when it comes to nature and our world, that's our biggest gift right now. Like, what can I do? Yeah, I can't delete a hurricane. I don't think any of us can, unless there's some really wicked science out there that I don't know about yet, which, could be true. Um, but I can certainly do my part for the things that I know I can do to improve the ecosystem around me,
Hmm.
to hold to the terrain. Like, we live in a desert. If I'm going to honor the terrain of the desert, probably not best for me to go out and turn everything into something that doesn't look like a desert. That's not honoring the terrain around me, right? So I probably should consider that when I'm looking at how I'm going to landscape my yard, or, it's stuff like that. How can I honor the environment as it is, the way that it is, so that I'm doing my part.
Mhm.
And honestly, that's all I know I can do.
Absolutely. And you highlight something I feel like is really important too. And that's the thinking tends to either be in the future or the past. In this situation, we're thinking forward, right? And so that's future, but the emotion we're feeling is very present.
Mhm.
And so if we're stuck in our thoughts and in our head, that's when we cycle and we keep using the future to fuel our present moment experiences. And that to me, it's like it builds, it builds. So we have the thought, then we have the feel, then we have the thought, and we have the bigger feel. We have the thought, we have an even bigger feel. And so one of the ways to redirect that I feel like you're saying beautifully here is to adjust the way that you're thinking, is to become more present. So whether that's meditation or whether that's going on a walk, this isn't to distract. And that's what's so important here. It's not to distract, to pull you away. It's just to get you to be more present. Because oftentimes a lot of the fear that we experience is in the future, but when the present
Anxiety.
moment, anxiety,
Anxiety, big time.
exactly. And but a lot of the a lot of times when we are actually present, we realize that we're actually safe. And so we can if our goal is to be of service, let's say it's either to ourselves or to the people around us or to hold space for those who we know who are going through something. It's hard to do that if we are so caught up in the fear of it. And then we can't be present enough to actually show up for the people who need it, including ourselves. And so the more that we can use these tools to become more present, then we can actually activate ourselves and be in support to ourselves and others.
And I know one thing that I used a lot in in times of crisis was the reminder of just, I am safe. I am safe. I am safe. So that I reminded myself that I actually am safe, because it does bring you back to that realization that everything could be going crazy, but unless there was something happening to me right in that moment, then I am safe, right? There are a lot of things, having navigated some of my own disasters in my life, natural and otherwise. You do get post traumatic stress disorder, right? You get really caught up. This is another childhood share. There was a tornado that came through when I was very young, and we didn't have a basement in the house that we lived at, so we were going across to the neighbor's house. And my mom got, I don't know if she was just shocked or what happened, but my brothers and I had made it to the neighbor's house, and I was standing at their screen door with my friend and her mom, and my mom stopped dead in her tracks, and the tornado was right there.
Mm,
You could see the tornado, and my mom was just staring at it. And I had never felt so scared as a little girl in my entire life.
mm,
And I remember my neighbor's mom was like, Amber, Amber, don't look, because we had no idea. And she was yelling out the door at my mom to come in. And I truly believe my mom was just, I mean, it's scary, right? But I had such traumatic responses then to storms after that.
mm,
I Rainstorms would hit and I was scared to death. And I never understood why until I started going back, and instead of getting over it, I got through it. Because as a child, losing your parent is probably one of the worst things you could ever imagine, right? Especially your mom. So it took a lot for me to navigate and figure out the reason I was scared to death of storms was that. So that PTSD is real.
mhm.
And we have to figure out how to navigate that part of it. And sharing, being willing to dive into that and connect with others who can say, it's okay, even if it's from something like that, that's been a long time ago and now it's brought back up again by another event. Let's connect together so that we're not frozen and we can proactively, as people together, move forward so that no matter, again, what nature does, we can nurture each other.
Love that. It's so beautiful, and it's a it's a good reminder as well that when things that happen outside of us are a great way for us to go within. And that's what it means, to at least to me, what it means when you say get through something or go
Mhm.
through something. Getting over is like surface level, right? But getting
Mhm.
through it means going within. And so when something is happening, again, caveat is like, as long as you're not like in the middle, it's
Yeah.
really hard to, if you're in the middle of a distressed moment, to like sit and reflect. Like,
Yeah.
that's not what this is.
Yeah. No.
This is not what
I'm
that's,
not
yeah.
reflecting now. I'm
Yeah.
feeling it.
Yeah. You're
Leave me
going to be in
alone.
survival mode. You need to like do
Feel
what,
it.
yeah.
Yeah. Do it.
Um, but even if it's in the anticipation, or if the people around you, or maybe you're near the area but it's not directly affecting you, or there's countless other ways that this could occur. But just to remind ourselves, or even like right now, like nothing's happening to me personally, but I'm seeing this all around the world, right? And that's where a
Mhm.
lot of people are looking at what's going on in the world. It's like, what's going to happen in the next 10 years, as kind of as we were saying.
Mhm.
Asking that question of, instead of, why is this happening, or sometimes we hear like, why is God doing this,
Yeah. Yeah.
and for us to adjust away from placing a blame on something external that we don't understand, start to look within and say, what is this showing us as a collective? What am I supposed to learn from these events? Or what are we as a society, what are humans meant to learn? If this keeps happening and it keeps cycling and it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse, you know uh, I know that when that happens within my own life, then that's an area that I need to really focus on. Say, wow, something is very misaligned here.
Yep.
So I need to kind of pull back, get back to the drawing board, and understand what is creating the misalignment.
Yeah.
And so when we start to look at these kind of things and we see that on a global scale, whether it's it could be economic, it could be nature, it could be politics. I mean, it's literally almost in every single spirituality, education. I mean, it's almost in every category right now,
Yeah.
which is pretty wild. And that's why everyone's just like, I don't know.
Ah.
And then
Yeah.
it's totally fair. But these are all coming up because they're giving us this beautiful opportunity to choose something different, to say, what can we learn as a society? Because clearly, what we have been doing is not putting us in the direction that we want to go. But if we keep perpetuating it, all we're telling the universe and the world is that we do,
Mhm.
but we say we don't, but our actions show differently. So we have to be willing to step out of this and go within and say, okay, what can I do, and what can we do that can do something different, and start to see how maybe that might change the way things, all these cycles are going. And you're like, okay, my first question would be like, well, how can me going within, change the weather? It's a great, to me, that would be a good question. It's, and
Well,
for,
do it and see.
yeah, exactly.
That's the scientific method, right? We don't know.
We
So
don't know.
do it and see.
Yeah. Um, But even if one person started, then that can create a ripple effect. And that one person could make a difference and show a different perspective. And by choosing that different perspective, the whole world can then start to view it differently. And by changing that action, then the ripple effect could be that maybe the weather is less affected by whatever actions were taken due to that.
I would put it this way. All things are energy,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Including the weather. Now, again, this is a hypothesis. Well, it's not even a hypothesis, really. It's like pre hypothesis. But given that all things are energy,
Mhm.
And if we are in a state of chaos or fear and we are unsure of ourselves and the energy that we're putting out is that, then I have no doubt that affects the weather in some way. Now, I don't know how. I don't even pretend that I have any clue. But if I'm just looking at it from a sheer energetic perspective, I have no doubt our combined human energetics have some bearing on the planetary energetics. It just, I would estimate it has to. Zero research, zero data to support this, zero awareness of any of the integrative patterns. But just from what I know from energetics and other areas that I have studied, it would have to.
Yeah.
Just
It's a fair, I mean,
probability.
we've got 9 billion people on us who resonate on an energy spectrum of at least a little bit of anxiety to extreme amounts of anxiety, and probably
Mhm.
a vast majority in that middle to extreme, sadly,
Yeah.
right now, right? So if we have disharmony within ourselves, it wouldn't be a stretch, I feel, to see disharmony outside of selves. And we have yet to fully experience 9 billion people feeling calm.
Yeah.
What if we did, what would the world look like and how would it respond?
So, again, here's a question to our community who's listening. If anyone has done this research or has any information around this, we would love, love, love to hear it
Yeah.
because it is fascinating. It would be really interesting to uh, to learn more about this because, again, anything I'm doing is more guesswork than anything that is scientifically backed. But I'm a science nerd, so
Mhm.
I would love to have more scientific data
Yeah.
around that.
Absolutely. I mean, these are questions that we have to start asking,
Yeah.
and not every question is going to lead to an exact result that we're looking for. But that's part of the point, is to start to ask the questions to get ourselves out of what isn't working and get ourselves into what will work.
Yeah. 100%. So that community engagement is a huge, huge portion of that. So if you have been impacted, even by individuals who have experienced this, and it isn't directly, and you have tools, resources that you would like to share, or you're looking for tools or resources, you can absolutely share them or make a request wherever you are listening to this or watching it. Just post a comment and we will make certain that we align you appropriately. And don't forget, we have a lot of wonderful information available through the organization that brings you this, Sweevera. You can find us out at sweevera.org. It's always in the show notes below, and that will take you out to all of the different resources we have available everywhere. We are always here to support you. And if you are looking for a great place to make a donation, we have so many initiatives underway. We love, love, love kind donors because kind donors like you are the ones that keep the Heart Leader podcast going. So thank you to all who have donated. And we are always, always, always thankful for those who come into the fold. Now, we have some other great things to share. We have the Silence Your Inner Critic Immersive Retreat. So, if conversations like this that are heart expanding and soul awakening are exactly your cup of tea, then I would highly encourage you to head on out to silenceyourinnercritic.com and explore the Silence Your Inner Critic Immersive Retreat. It is what we are calling the Kamertage for your soul. It helps that inner champion rise up and tell that negative voice, that inner critic that thinks that it gets to dominate your world, that you are not having it anymore. So head on out and check out our immersive retreat. Austin and I will be there doing deep dives, and we'll have some other really cool guests to keep things spicy and alive. But If none of those are exactly what you're looking for right now, I bet more of the Heart Leader podcast is. So continue on and check out some of our playlists. Talk to you soon.